If I went back in time, let me just tell you, if I went back in time, first thing I'd do is I'd go to Vegas and I'd put every penny on whoever won the World Series because I know who won the World Series the last 50 years. So I'd hit it. And then I'd buy all those cheap stocks like Coca-Cola, depending, or Amazon when it was only $10 an apple, and I'd load up, right? Like, what are you talking about? I don't have to go save the world. Shit, I can just do this because eventually I'm going to be a billionaire and then I'll save the world.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Poppin the Culture, the show that takes a deep dive in the wonderful world of entertainment. And I'm your host. That's right, it's me, Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Demers. And trust me, we got a lot of fun coming your way. I'm going to be sharing part one of my exclusive interview with Todd McFarlane. That's right, Todd will be filling us in on all the excitement happening in the Spawn universe and so much more. Just wait till you hear what he's got in store for us. But first, well, it's time to check out those Hollywood headlines. All right, this is the part of the show where we like to dissect some of the more interesting developments out there in the business of show. And to break it all down, why I've recruited a very familiar voice and face here at Watch Mojo. You know her, you love her. Heck, even Tom Holland is a fan, and Spider-Man can't be wrong. The Watch Mojo lady herself, Rebecca Brayton, is here. Welcome, Rebecca.
Are you saying welcome to me? Because that's my name usually. Welcome
I know.
To Watch Mojo. No. Thanks, Matt. It's fun to be here. I'm excited to be on this side of things.
Question
Yes.
for you. And I think there was an AMA that went on the Watch Mojo chat. Watch Mojo lady. That's kind of your nickname, and I think it's really cool. I think it's really catchy. I mean, I call myself Mr. Hollywood, but do you like being called the Watch Mojo lady?
So I like that it is an organic nickname that we did not invent. Do you know what I mean? That the fans kind of came up with themselves. Although, contrary to popular belief, everybody thinks Tom Holland named me that, and whatever, I'll take it. But he did not. If you rewatch that video, he never says that. But not that that's a myth I would like to dispel. But anyway, all in all, it's fine. I have no problem with it. I'll take it. Nicknames are great.
What does Tom Holland smell like?
Roses
Whenever
and
I meet
innocence.
Oh. Whenever I meet a celebrity, that's what everyone, and I don't know why, everyone's like, oh, what'd they smell like? What did Ryan Reynolds smell like? Vanilla, by the way. Okay, Rebecca.
Ooh. Sorry, that's my jam.
Oh, well, then you'll love him. Okay, here we go. Speaking of love, people love them some Jim Carrey. I know I do. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. Yeah. So
1994 was a very important year.
Huge. And speaking of 1994, a big movie came out. I think it was the one that kind of catapulted him into stardom. It was called Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Now, here's the news that I want you to help me break down. Reports now from Morgan Creek, who has the rights to this property, is saying that officially an Ace Ventura 3 will be in production. Not a lot is known. We know that the writers will be from the Sonic the Hedgehog movie and the sequel, which also starred Jim Carrey. And then there is a bit of casting rumors floating around that Evan Peters, you know him from, well, he was in WandaVision recently. Yeah. That he might be Ace Ventura's son. Okay, now there's no official word on whether Carrey will be back in, but what says you, Rebecca? Are you in Ace Ventura 3?
Okay, I have so many things.
And I should clarify. I should clarify. Not are you in the movie? I mean, if you are, that's amazing. But are you in for?
If anybody wants to put me in a movie, that's great. I would love that. I've already told the fans that I want them to get me to be an AI in the Marvel universe. But anyway, sidebar. Am I in for Ace Ventura 3? Well, here's the thing. If it doesn't star Jim Carrey, don't even talk to me about it. Like, we've already seen via Son of the Mask that reboots of Jim Carrey movies or sequels to Jim Carrey movies without Jim Carrey do not work. So,
yeah.
Sorry, Jamie Kennedy. I don't know what to tell you. Now, Evan Peters is an interesting choice, and based on his performance on WandaVision, I think he could convincingly portray Ace Ventura's son. But I would love to see the dynamic between the two of them. So I wouldn't like to see him do it solo.
I'm with you about the no Jim. If Jim Carrey's not in it, I'm not interested. Although I'm going to put a big asterisk because I said that about another franchise, Rebecca.
Let me see if I can guess. Okay, can I have a clue?
Okay, so it didn't star the big star of the original because sadly he was no longer with us.
Oh.
Yeah. Think there's been 2 movies that have come out recently, both hugely successful.
Not Jurassic World.
No.
Stick
with the J. Stick with the J.
Jumanji?
Yeah.
The Jumanji movies are so good.
I know, and that's the thing. When I heard about this, and obviously they're doing Jumanji, and I said, well, no, you can't do it without Robin Williams because Robin Williams was that movie to me, the first one. And then when it came out, when they did the remake, and they paid homage to him, by the way, really well, his character. And I loved it. And I was like, wow. So they did some really creative things. So maybe, just maybe, if Jim Carrey's not in Ace Ventura, they would have to do something really creative to make it their own.
Yeah. I will say...
Is there any...
Sorry. I will say just that Ace Ventura 1, the comedy has aged fine. Like, it's still a funny slapstick, whatever. But the story itself, would love to see that kind of be ignored. Because the story in Ace Ventura 1 has not aged very well, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That ending is a little cringy. But that franchise, I think, it still has some gas. There was an animated show, and then there was this really terrible made-for-TV movie, which we won't even mention.
Was that The Child?
Yeah.
Oh, we won't mention. Sorry.
We won't mention. All right, before we move on from Jim Carrey, any other Carrey movies that you think he should return for or should get sequels or rebooted? Because he's done a lot. We had the Dumb and Dumber one. He did that. Ace Ventura is on there. Any other ones that you would like to see?
The only one I would like to see kind of what happens next for is The Truman Show. But the point of that movie is that you don't see what happens next. So I don't actually want a sequel to that. But I'm curious. So honestly, my real answer to this is Sonic, and I'm glad there will be another one because that movie was actually a lot of fun, along the lines of Jumanji. Yeah,
and I'm happy that Jim Carrey was in that movie, and it reminded me of the Jim Carrey of old from the '94, and it looked like he was having fun.
Yeah, totally.
So, no Cable Guy sequel.
No, I don't think it's necessary. That was a standalone for me. I don't know.
Did he? I think he died at the end of that. I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, I feel like there was something with a satellite dish. I don't know.
Yeah, and that, by the way, if you want to feel old, the Cable Guy just had its. It just had its 25th anniversary.
Great.
So old.
Thanks.
Speaking of old, what's old is new again, Rebecca, in the world of TV. Newsweek came out and they published a month or so ago a list of all the rebooted shows that are coming to our small screen soon. We're talking this year or next year. I don't know if you've had a chance to look, but there is a lot. I'll run through a few, and I want to know if any of these have got you excited. We've already seen the Gossip Girl trailer out. That's coming to HBO Max. There's going to be a new Avatar, The Last Airbender. I know fans of that are excited. Beavis and Butthead has me excited. Battlestar Galactica is coming back. That's interesting. Frasier. Do we need another Frasier? Well, Kelsey Grammer thinks so.
That's one of the ones I want to talk about, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested to hear that. The Boondocks is on this list. Cowboy Bebop. Criminal Minds, which just ended last year. They're rebooting it already. Dexter. I'm
curious to see how they fix that ending.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic. Doogie Howser, MD. Man, there's a long list. The Fairly Odd Parents. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with a dramatic twist. Good Times. iCarly. Kids in the Hall for us Canadians. Little House on the Prairie. My Lord. Queer as Folk. Rugrats. And the list goes on. Oh, Sex in the City. We can't forget that one. Without Samantha. All right, Rebecca. Which one are you excited for, if any?
Okay. Well, excited's not the right word. Okay. I'm interested in the Frasier reboot, the Fresh Prince reboot, the Sex and the City reboot. However, much like I was saying for the Ace Ventura reboot or remake or sequel or whatever you want to call it, without the main character or any missing main characters, what is it? So Frasier has Frasier and nothing else. So as far as I know anyway, like obviously John Mahoney passed away, so he's not going to be on definitely. And he was a really big part of the show.
Huge.
And David Hyde Pierce, I believe, is not coming back. So I don't know who is coming back other than Kelsey Grammer, but he's great, but I don't know if that's a show. But then, to be fair, I didn't think Frasier would be a good show after Cheers, and here we are.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Cheers because that character, Frasier, I think has been done to death. What more do we need to see this character do? He was in Cheers. He was in Frasier. He won all these awards. I think Kelsey Grammer just might need to make a boat payment or buy a new yacht, and he's looking for
then
a payday.
Then he should make Down Periscope, too. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, I forgot to mention one, and it's actually the one that I'm interested in. It's called True Blood. True Blood is apparently coming back. Anna Paquin has said that she has not been reached out or she's not apparently part of it. But I kind of like True Blood when it first came out. I was into that. Are you into True Blood?
You know, it's not one of the shows that I ever watched. I have nothing to say about it. I'm sorry. It was just never a show that I particularly was interested in. Sell it to me.
Okay. Well, it's just, it's a vampire. It's like the opposite of Twilight.
But the same. The same, but opposite. Same,
yeah.
but different. Okay.
And the last thing I want to touch on is all these animated. I mentioned a lot of animated shows. Is there any that animated shows, maybe they're not on my list that I just mentioned, maybe the ones that you want to see get the reboot?
Animated shows that need a reboot.
I'm excited for Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, that was never my jam. I liked Rocko's Modern Life, which was a weird show.
Do you remember something called Freakazoid?
I remember it. I don't think I ever watched it.
Yeah, it was under the same kind of umbrella as like Animaniacs. Steven Spielberg was involved. I loved Freakazoid. I would love to see that come back.
Okay. I loved Animaniacs, so I was glad to see that come back as well. So they can't all be bad.
Is there? No. Is Darkwing Duck coming back? Or I know he had a cam. He was on the DuckTales, the rebooted DuckTales. We can't sing because then we'll.
Sorry.
We didn't pay for the rights. I think you're okay with a woo. Anything more, we'd have to.
Yeah.
Sign a check. All right. So here's the thing. I want to know what you guys out there think. Are you excited for Ace Ventura 3? Is there any other Jim Carrey movies that you want to see get the reboot? And what about all these TV shows coming back? Sound off in the comments. I want to know what you think. All right, Rebecca, don't go anywhere because now it's time to go beyond the list. All right, so what I've done is I've plucked out a list in the vast archives of WatchMojo. And Rebecca, I want you to help me go through it, give me your opinions. We'll go beyond that list. And I think this should be fun because I do movie reviews. And one thing I know is that people love, other than good movies, bad movies. And so today we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst movies of the 1990s. I'm not afraid to age myself. I'm a 90s kid, so I'm interested to know, Rebecca, how many of these you've seen. So just to set it up here, we're talking North American big budget productions, okay? Not the cheap stuff. So there was a lot of money. They should have made it good. So it's a mix of critical, commercial success, or rather lack thereof. They'll be looking at the quality of films and the story, the effects, the writing, all that stuff. So what I'll do is I'll go through this list. And Rebecca, you tell me, do you remember these? All right. The number 10 was The Avengers in 1998. And no, not the Marvel Avengers.
If you had asked me who the Avengers were prior to, I guess, 2008, this is what I would have said.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I was more aware of this as a show, as a property, as a whole franchise than I was of the Marvel Avengers.
Oh, wow.
In those days.
Did not know that. Number 9, I'm actually, to be honest, and I'm a movie buff, I don't even know what this is. It's called North. Came out in 19...
Is that the Elijah Wood movie?
I think it's...
I think Elijah Wood is in it.
Okay. And it was supposed to be some sort
of...
I
remember it.
Oscar bait is what I hear about that one. But it didn't turn out. Number 8... Now, I'll have something to say about this. afterwards. Super Mario Brothers. 1993. Number 7
Not
was...
familiar. Joking.
Okay, this one is an SNL movie. They used to do so many. Now I don't know if they've really had one in a while. But this one was called It's Pat. It's Pat. Remember, it was a character.
Yeah.
You couldn't...
Oh, yeah, I remember.
You couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl. And they made him...
Funny thing is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and they made a whole movie about it in 1994.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, didn't do so well. That's why it's on this list. Speed 2, Cruise Control. Sandra Bullock was back. Keanu Reeves was not. Kazam, 1996, Shaquille O'Neal. Number 4, Batman and Robin, 1997.
I feel like we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about that one.
I do have a lot to say about that. Baby Geniuses came out in 1999. That brings us to number 2. One of the funniest movie titles ever. It's called Highlander: The Quickening. I don't even know what's a quickening.
That sounds like... Do you watch Schitt's Creek? That sounds like Crows 3, The Croning, or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. And number 1, the worst movie of the 1990s was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. How fitting, because we had the recent Mortal Kombat reboot this year. All right, Rebecca, I gave you the list, the 10 worst movies of the 90s. Give us a grand total. How many did you sit through?
So not including the honorable mentions, that would be a grand total of 1.
Oh, okay. Can I guess which one?
I don't watch bad movies. You absolutely may.
It's
probably not hard.
No, and I think it's... And I want to ask you if you sat through the whole thing, because I didn't. Is it Batman and Robin?
Absolutely, and I sure did.
You sat through the whole thing? Did you watch it?
Yeah, of course.
In theaters or at home?
No, at home.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure even prior to my movie connoisseur days, which this was, of course, I think we roasted the movie the entire time.
Yeah, I'm a big Batman fan, and I didn't mind Batman Forever, to be honest.
I love Batman Forever.
Yeah, it was different. It was a different take.
I will do a TED Talk on Batman Forever.
I will pay money to see that. But Batman and Robin, I couldn't watch. I think I turned it off. Because it's a long movie too, by the way. I think I didn't even watch the last 40 or so minutes. I don't think I ever have.
Yikes.
Am I missing
anything? I've only seen it the once. Yeah, badness. It's bad.
So you didn't see any of these other ones. Super Mario Brothers, that's the one I remember watching.
Yeah.
And here's my take on that. It's not that bad. I know it gets a bad rap. And I know there's all these stories now about the actors didn't enjoy themselves. Half of them were drinking on the job to get through the takes. But I had fun with this as a kid. This is like a guilty pleasure for me. Maybe I'm alone in this.
Well, I feel like movies are different when you watch them first as a child. There's
true.
Automatically going to be like a filter on them of nostalgia. And this is such a beloved property. And okay, here's another point I want to make about not a lot of these movies, but a majority of them. There are a lot of actors in a lot of these movies. Like that movie has John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, and they're both good actors. So how bad can it be? Or why did they make this movie in the first place? They didn't need to. I don't get it. Bob Hoskins made Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's a good movie.
He's a great actor. And I feel like
totally.
This was the first, I think, well, maybe not the first. I'll have to go in the records, but one of the very, very early video game films, right? So I think they're still trying to figure out that genre. I think they're still trying to figure out
absolutely. How do you take a story that because the story, there's no story in a lot of video games, at least that, what is that, a side scroller? I don't know on video games. But, there's not really a story. There's a princess and you save her and whatever. And I guess that's enough for a movie, but what is the movie about? If you don't mind my asking.
Well, they go in a different realm and they fight lizard people and they're plumbers. Did I sell it?
Yeah, it sounds weird when you're making a movie. It's in a video game, you're yes. But in a movie, you're no.
Yeah. Speaking of video game movies, Mortal Kombat Annihilation was the number one. That's the number one movie on the worst movie of the 1990s on this list. You didn't see this? Did you see the first 90s?
No, I didn't. And a lot of people come after me. I've had several DMs on my personal social media accounts attacking me for attacking this movie. I just like to throw this out there. It was not me. I just read the words, "I'm Ron Burgundy?" ? Like, but anyway, no, I haven't seen it, but I can't imagine it was excellent.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat Annihilation was terrible. I actually rewatched the first '90s version of Mortal Kombat, and I kind of dug it. I think that there's still that fun elements there, and the second one was just terrible. The worst dialogue I think ever written, and a lot of the characters from the first movie didn't return, which is never a good sign. Yeah. And did you watch the rebooted one? Because I thought that wasn't bad. It was incredibly violent.
Mortal Kombat's not my franchise, so no, I did not see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Just because we said a movie was bad doesn't mean it's not worth watching.
It's true. Hey, so bad it's good. That's a whole genre unto itself. Any ones that from the '90s that you watched that you think should have been on this list? I have one.
Well, okay. So I did a little quick Google before this for other lists to see like what other people might have put on. And I saw Sister Act 2 and Spice World and like A Night at the Roxbury on lists like this. And I was very offended because those are all great movies. I like Sister Act 2 better than Sister Act 1. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I don't think I have to say anything about A Night at the Roxbury and Spice World, do I?
No,
they're not bad
Roxbury
movies.
is terribly great,
Yeah.
is what it is. And it knows what it is, right?
Yes. That is one of the good SNL movies.
It is. Okay, here's mine. And I just had to double check to make sure it was 90s, and it definitely is. Early 90s. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Ooh.
Turtles in Time. Man,
right.
Talk about a stinker. It just ruined the franchise, wasn't it? They took all the fun of the Ninja Turtles and they flushed it down the drain.
I don't get it, though. Okay, wait. It's about time travel, right? Like Turtles in Time? There's time travel?
Yes.
How bad can it be? You know, I mean, maybe you don't know. Oh, well, I guess. But I am such a huge fan of time travel. Loved the Turtles. I don't know.
Rebecca?
Was there no Vanilla Ice? Is that the problem?
Yeah, it needed more Vanilla Ice. There should have been Vanilla Ice. All right. And as always, we want to know what you all think out there. Any 90s movies that didn't make that list. And by the way, if you do want to watch that list on Watch Mojo, you can click on your screen and guess who narrated it? The one and only Watch Mojo lady herself, Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. It's time for our Mojo Chat of the Week. Here it is. Part 1 of my exclusive interview with Todd McFarlane. He's a giant in the entertainment industry, and I don't know if I'll be able to stop smiling throughout the course of this interview because I myself am a huge fan of our guest today, the Todd father himself, Mr. Todd McFarlane. Todd, how are we doing?
Dude, every day I'm doing good. I'm too competitive to let anybody have a better day than me. So
it's good.
I'm doing whatever you're doing, I'm doing at least equal, if not better. So
it's good to be Todd McFarlane, and it's a good time to be a fan of Todd McFarlane because there's a lot going on. And I kind of want to touch on all those topics today. I want to start with the big one because the comics Spawn, I mean, we know it's broken records. We're well past that 301 issues now. But now the universe, the Spawn universe is blowing up. Some big things. June 23rd, the Spawn universe 1 broke records. But tell us, why is the time to get into Spawn? Put it in your pull list. What's going on?
Why jump in now? Because usually we've found historically people come and go into any title or any company, usually based on some kind of event, right? Okay, I waited a long time. Here's my event. Maybe issue 300, 301, with us setting the record for longest running creator-owned book. I was able to sort of maybe start steering the boat in that direction with the thought in my head of, hey, if I'm ever going to pull the trigger on the universe, this is 300. I thought would be sort of the first sort of pre-step, the baby step towards it. And I keep saying Spawn's been around a long time. I wish I wasn't as old as I was, but I am. And the upside of getting old is that you've done a lot of stuff. So with the 300 plus issues, that means that people who are now, like I said, 30 years old, arguably weren't even born when the first issue came out. So that nobody's had a chance to collect from the sort of the beginning. If you need a reason to collect from the beginning, then here's your event. There's going to be the Spawn's Universe #1, right? I got my advanced copy right there. You're going to have King Spawn #1, right? King Spawn #1 is going to come. You're going to have Gunslinger is going to come right behind it. He's a super hot character. And then you're going to have the team book right behind it. I'm not saying you have to buy all of it, but maybe there's one of those that is interesting to you, or is curious to you, or you may sample all of them and then only sort of continue down the road with a couple. And as well, there's going to be the classic Spawn is going to keep going. So, all right, and for the people that have been loyal for all the years, they've been coming back once a month, right? Once a month. But I sort of let them off the hook for a month, and I hope they don't get distracted too much, that they don't come back. But now we're going to have a book come out by the end of December when the team up book comes out. We're going to have a book of a week. There's going to be Spawn, King Spawn, Gunslinger, the team book. So if you like the world of Spawn, you're going to be able to get it once a week. Every time you walk into your comic store, there should be a new book from me.
That's amazing. And I love Spawn. I love the universe and the characters. And they've kind of new characters. Well, I don't want to say new. Some of them have been around for a while. They've been reinvigorated. There's new twists on them. My favorite, and maybe I'll get your favorite of the bunch, Todd. I love this Gunslinger Spawn. This guy's just badass. The definition.
Badass, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you watch wrestling. It reminds me of The Undertaker. He's since retired. He's like Spawn's version of The Undertaker, but with like the guns and the top hat. What about you? Which character other than Al, our main hero?
No, I think Gunslinger is going to be the winner of the bunch to start with. We'll see what happens with the others, depending what those stories are and what events people, if we do our job right and keep introducing new characters, a couple of them are going to pop, right? I'm sure nobody thought when the Uncanny X-Men started that Wolverine would be so big. So we're going to have our surprise hits as we go by, but I think the Gunslinger is sort of the easy, obvious guy, because to me he's, I'm older. The westerns I used to watch were the ones with Clint Eastwood. And he was, the outlaw Josie Wales, and he was just that dude. He had the 5 o'clock shadow, and he had that little skinny cigarette of his, and he had the poncho, and he didn't really talk a whole heck of a lot, right? I'd argue Clint Eastwood doesn't talk a lot in any of his movies. And because he just went from outlaw Josie Wales to Dirty Harry, and he just sort of keeps the attitude. But to me, that's who Gunslinger is. Just this dude that's not gonna say a heck of a lot to people. He's just gonna do what he has to do. Oh, by the way, he's also a guy now that's going to be 180 years out of time, and so I'm in the book. To start with, I'm going to have sort of a modern story and then a Western story. So I'm going to mix and match. So you'll be able to get both. But there'll be a little bit of interest and fun of that whole man out of time, right?
Love it.
I just did a ending in the second plot that I gave to my artists, and it's just super dark, intense, almost bloody story, and then at the end it sort of takes a little bit of a turn because he sort of is curious about some modern piece of technology we have, and so the last couple pages he's just asking silly questions like I don't understand it, right? And so he just went from like killing people to like, how's that even work, right? What does it even mean? Why do you guys even have it? So I think those would be sort of fun conversations that he'll have. I've even things like, does he know what a dinosaur is? I mean, sometimes this is a thing. It's easy to do all this stuff where you pull people and you play with time. I'm always disappointed at times that people don't act the way they would. If I went back in time, let me just tell you, if I went back in time, first thing I do is I go to Vegas and I put every penny on whoever won the World Series because I know who won the World Series the last 50 years. So I'd hit it. And then I'd buy all those cheap stocks like Coca-Cola, depending, or Amazon when it was only $10 an apple, and I'd load up, right? Like, what are you talking about? I don't have to go save the world. Shit, I can just do this because eventually I'm going to be a billionaire and then I'll save the world. So, because I'll have lots of money to build my ships and my bat boats. But anyways, that's just me.
You touched on something there, Todd, that you're still very much involved in the writing of the Spawn comic. And I think a lot of people that aren't following Spawn are like, wait, Todd's still doing the creative, he's still doing the writing. Why is that? Is it's just a character that you love writing? Is it a trust issue? Is it just you've got the idea, or why are you still?
Here's the thing that I don't think people sort of realize, but if they thought about it intellectually, they would go, wow, that I've written more issues of Spawn, which is, a single book, arguably more than any other person on the planet other than Eric Larson, who's done every single issue of Savage Dragon. God bless him. So I've written way more than I've drawn, because it's, I can do my 20 pages a month, writing fairly easily. And it's always interesting because nobody ever says, oh, I'm going to go get a signature from Todd the writer. I've never had anybody say, Todd, your artwork's okay, but man, I love your writing. But it's also funny because sometimes I run into writers and they like to feel pretty good about themselves because they're doing a book that's selling pretty good, right? And I'm like, okay, so you think from the writing point of view that the book's selling, and because I'm biased, I think the art is at least 51% of every comic book.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if the writing, if sales equals how good the writer is, then I've had a couple of books that say I'm the best writer in the business, because we just said, again, a big record for that. I guess that makes me the best writer at Image comic books in the 21st century for a new title. I don't think that's true, right? So if it's not true for my book, then it might not be true for other books. So the unique thing about comics is it's this amalgamation of words and pictures, right? It's what makes us unique, right? Novels are just words. Movies are all pictures with dialogue and acting, but words and pictures are unique to comics. So we have our own little playground that we're in, and it's just, people ask me whether they think our industry is going to flourish or it's going to shrink or whatever. Like, words and pictures are going to be around forever. The only thing that will alter possibly in the future is whether the delivery mechanism is different.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Are you old school that you like to hold your comic? You like to fold it open? Are you okay with reading it on the screen? I've done both. I don't mind it, but I think I prefer the physical.
Yeah, I mean, I print comics, so I've got a lot of printed comic books around. So I've done both. We all have our preferences to everything, but I try to look through the sort of the focus and the lens of the people that are out there. And if society is now trending that, the youth are buying the comic books and they like it that way, or they collect their music, via download instead of a CD or, literally a record like I used to buy when I was a kid. Okay, cool, right? Like I try not to be that old guy that says, my day, this is how we did it and whatever. Like I never tried. I don't ever want to be that guy, right? Because here's what I know. If all this modern technology was available to me when I was 10 and 12, I would have gobbled it up too, right? So we somehow think because it wasn't available to us that somehow we would have been, we would have said, no, we don't need a smartphone. Like, what are you talking about? I could have watched the Batman TV show, and I could have watched Mod Squad, and I could have watched Laughing like nonstop on my phone. I would have done it all day long until my eyes got burnt out. So.
Yeah, I think I speak for everybody at Watch Mojo when I say thank God for YouTube. Before we move on from comics, you're also the president of Image Comics, and some of my favorite comics are coming from Image. I love me some Invincible. Anything.
Walking Dead Saga. We've done lots. Some of the new stuff now with the
Saga's great. So I want you to give some people that haven't checked out any new comics lately. What's something that Image has other than your own, obviously?
Oh yeah. No, we've had
we've
had a bit of a renaissance in the last year. Weirdly enough, you've been reading these stories of companies that have and industries that have perked up during the pandemic. I think all things geek have pretty much perked up. Yeah. So and comic books, one of them. But we in the last year have had, Undiscovered Country, which is a Scott Snyder book that did really well.
Yes.
And then we came out and there was the Department of Truth by James Tynion III, who killed it. And I mean, him and his art team. And then Donny Cates came out with him and his artist with a crossover. Scott Snyder backfilled again with Noctura that just came out. That was a big hit. Philadelphia, Sean Alexander, who's doing some of this, did it. I mean, we have, and there's a couple more coming down the pipeline. We just announced the new book coming out in June by Emilia Clarke. She's the one, that people know her as the actress from Game of Thrones. She's coming out with her own book. So that's going to be sort of fun and interesting. And then we just, then there's these other sort of fun titles, Thumbs, with, about sort of video games and some of the trappings of that. So there's a lot. I mean, it's Image Comic Books. Image Comic Books has been the third largest comic company since its inception, since 1992. Everybody knows Marvel, DC, and then if you were to ask, and you're not a comic book fan, well, what's number 3? It's us, and we've been number 3 pretty much nonstop for 30 years. We have I'd say about 24, 25 of our books have been optioned and or developed into Hollywood, right? I think people don't know that, things like Kick-Ass and Wanted and,
I'm still not over Jupiter's Legacy being canceled by Netflix, but whatever.
Right. Walking Dead, right? And on and on and on. And then even in the last couple weeks, we had a book that won an Eisner Award called Bitter Root that got picked up. In my corner, a couple of the cops, and they're in the Spawn mythology. We just announced last week the Sam Twitch that we're developing. So, I mean, there's lots of eclectic that we do, and it's not superhero stuff. But I still have a soft spot for the superhero stuff, although I'm developing other comic books that are not part of that world. But here we go.
Todd, that was awesome. And people out there that haven't gone to their local comic book shop, definitely do. There's so much, and dare I say, something for everybody.
No, that's not even a cliche. That's a truism.
It is.
Your modern day comic book shop is like going to a convention, but I liken it more to like when Blockbuster videos were around, right? So you could walk into Blockbuster, you could have your 5-year-old kid, and you could have your 85-year-old grandma, and you would say, "Hey, everybody, go," and we meet back at the register in 10 minutes. Pick your movie. Now everybody comes back with the same format. It's a round, flat, silver disc. And the only thing that was different, because Grandma's got her movie, your 5-year-old's got their movie, and you got your movie. The only thing that's different isn't the format, it's the content. So the format of words and pictures on paper that's going to remain the same. What differentiates it is what's the story about.
Yeah.
And so if you go to a modern comic book store, you know, it literally is like a blockbuster of comic books. If you have an interest in any topic, almost, there's a book there for you. It's impossible for me to say that you could walk into a store that has literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of offerings, and you go, there's not one single thing that is of interest to me. It's like going to San Diego Comic-Con, walking into San Diego Comic-Con and go, nothing, there's nothing here that I think's cool. Right? Yeah. So of course there is, right? We all got a little bit of geek in it.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you join us next time for part 2 of my exclusive interview with Todd McFarlane. Todd's going to be spilling all the latest details on that Spawn reboot film, plus that newly announced Sam and Twitch TV series. Also want to give a special thanks to Rebecca Brayton, that's right, the Watch Mojo lady herself, for joining in on all the fun this week. Till next time, I'm Mr. Hollywood, and I've been Poppin the Culture.